Serious, Redditors who speak a second language, what funny things have you overheard from people? My parents speak Malayalam, a Dravidian language that nobody speaks outside of the state. It's from more gatherings specifically for it. I was on a vacation in Prague and out of the blue I hear, oh my god, there is so much crap in my butt. How did I miss this? Is there a bathroom nearby? I turn around and look at a guy. He looks at me. It gets awkward. I point around the corner. He lowers his head and goes. My dad is a husky fellow. One day, while at an all-you-can-eat restaurant, the couple in the booth behind him said in our native language they, meaning the restaurant, are definitely not going to make any money on this guy. Dad turns around and says they'll be fine. In Italy, buzzed an apartment from the gate out front. Person saw me through the camera, but since I am tall, the camera is level with my chest. I heard "Che brutta cravata," or "what an ugly tie." It was my favorite tie. I'm sure it is a nice tie. I speak passable German. The company I worked for had just acquired a firm in Germany. I was invited into the department head's conference call. As we went through the American departments, it was clear that it was a shit show. Inefficiencies, bitching each other out on the call, the works. After an hour of this, it was the Germans' turn. Clearly unaware that they were no longer on mute, in beautifully gruff German they blurted out what I translated to "stupid Americans. Just do your dang jobs, you lazy shoots," followed swiftly by, now in English, "No issues in Germany, everything is proceeding as per the schedule." I know enough French to know that two little girls in van with Quebec plates called me a pig for burping at a gas station. They were a mixture of shocked and amused when I made a pig nose gesture back at them. I also work with enough Spanish speaking people to know what the bad words are. Little old Puerto Rican ladies can be super vulgar in the grocery store. I once got called over by my boss because there were some Mexican guys outside yelling, waving their arms, and pointing at each other. He was scared they were going to start a brawl or something and asked me to go ask them to leave. Turns out they were just some friends arguing over whose wife made the best pozole. For some reason, whenever I go to IKEA, there are Indian couples who like to discuss whether or not I am Indian. Yes, I am. And I'm South Indian, so I do understand Tamil. Although I can't produce it, I know a different Indian language. Even if I didn't, I can see that you are looking at me repeatedly and talking. I'm a 6'1" white girl that's fluent in Mandarin and was living in China. So many comments were made about how tall I am, and I always replied, "You're correct. I am tall in Mandarin." The reactions were hilarious. My mom went to Shanghai recently and is a 6'3" white woman. She said everyone wanted her to take pictures with their kids because they'd never seen a woman so tall. So now her phone is full of photos of her towering over Chinese children. I'm Indian American, but in India, everybody knows I'm American. For one thing, I'm much taller, etc. I was on a train as a teenager when I had braces on my teeth. This grandmother with her grandson was sitting across from me. She said to her grandson, "Look at these Americans. They don't brush their teeth and they have to have them screwed in." I think she was just trying to scare him into better oral hygiene, but it was hilarious. I started commenting on the weather and the view and she looked shocked and then disgusted with me. "Ain't my fault that you assumed the brown American wouldn't understand you." I was in a cab once, and the driver was on his mobile, speaking to a friend in French. He started talking about me and my appearance. "Yeah, cute. Red hair. Boobs aren't so big." I first felt kind of annoyed and insulted, but then decided to mess with him a little. I continued giving him directions in English for the whole 20-minute cab ride. When we got near my block, I said, in perfect French, "Ah, here is perfect. You can pull over. Thanks, and say hi to your friend for me." Here in the Philippines, people are usually trilingual. You have your provincial language, then the national language Filipino, and English. I was inside a packed bus once going home from school when two local ladies were audibly talking about this middle-aged Caucasian guy who was seated behind them. It is always assumed that white guys have bigger junks compared to Asian men. So these ladies went on giggling while talking about the guy's supposedly huge dong in the local language. At the next stop, the white guy stood up and casually told the girls in perfect Filipino, "Excuse me, the man with a huge dong is passing by." I speak Levantine Arabic. One time I was sitting on the tube in London with my headphones in and music playing. I was zoned out but suddenly noticed that people were looking apprehensive and edging away from my end of the carriage. I looked around and saw two Arab men shouting and gesticulating at each other. Intrigued, I pulled out a headphone. Do you know Nancy Ajaram? They were passionately arguing over whether or not her boobs are fake. The whole situation was equally saddening and hilarious. I used to run an Asian market in central Mississippi. I was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy in a mostly Korean store. Being so close to the Nissan plant in Canton, many of my regulars were Japanese guys. I spoke proficient Japanese at the time. A group of guys came in that I'd never seen before. As with all new customers, I never assumed their ethnicity and greeted them in English. They start making their rounds looking up and down the aisles. I can hear they're speaking Japanese and looking for pickled radish. Typically with new customers I'll give them some time to explore, then check on them and ask if they need help finding anything specific. As I'm walking around from behind the counter, I hear one guy suggest asking me where the radish would be. Just before rounding the corner, another says the equivalent of nap. That freaking foreigner doesn't know about any of this stuff. Pocky and Ramune lol while using a pejorative term for foreigner. Major faux pas. I looked the guy square in the eye and told him in very informal Japanese here, "You are the foreigner. The radish is in the first cooler, second shelf under the miso." Then in more formal, "Do you require any additional assistance?" All his buddies gave the typical Japanese woe while the Ashat bowed deeply, apologizing over and over. He went and waited in the van. From then on, anytime that group came into the store and my car was parked out front, he stayed in the van. In Italy, me and my other British friends more than once overheard people standing very close to us criticize our clothing. For example, "What the heck is wearing? Why is she wearing a fancy dress costume?" Clearly thinking we wouldn't understand. But the worst incident was actually our own doing. One of the most embarrassing moments of my life. We were on a coach in Italy, sitting in a group, but one of us was sat next to an older gentleman. From past experience we felt pretty sure that an Italian man that age would speak no English, and even if he spoke a little bit, he certainly wouldn't understand fast-paced colloquial English with strong regional accents. So we went ahead and had a really long, detailed, graphic conversation about the gory details of vaginal and anal intercourse, the mechanics. Doesn't your dong get porn? Does CM function as lube this one time? Etc. etc. After about an hour my friend turned to the elderly man to ask in Italian if he knew the name of the town we were in. He replied, in English, "I don't speak Italian, I'm American." Frick, we literally just all pretended to go to sleep until he got off. I'm passable in formal Arabic, but understand the Egyptian dialect a little bit better, and a couple of guys at my college were talking about my butt while we were all buying food and they were behind me. One of them wondered what color underwear was wearing, so I answered them in Arabic. It was really funny to watch these two guys freeze and walk into a different line to pay because I'm so white and very Irish looking and they were clearly not expecting it. Overseen, British Sign Language, middle-aged couple in the middle of town. Her carrying an Ann Summers, high street adult shop, bag, carrying on an animated and very detailed conversation about her dressing up for him tonight, as a reward for, and that was the point at which I looked away. I guess they'd assumed there wouldn't be any other signers around. I speak Native American Ojibwe. Literally I hear like 10 dirty jokes from the elders on the res whenever I'm around them. Old natives are like an endless pit of dirty jokes. One of the old dudes I chill with sometimes like to make beginning speakers repeat sayings like dirty butts and stuff, and then likes to laugh his butt off at them because they don't know what it means. It makes my heart happy. The Chinese sushi chefs at my school seem to spend their time commentating on the appearance of every non-Asian patron. I've been roasted a couple times, but I find it hilarious and try to keep a straight face since I don't want them to stop. I'm an English speaker who knows decent Spanish, walking through a bus terminal in the US and heard two women loudly making fun of everyone there in Spanish. Was laughing too hard to say anything to them. A deaf couple made a fat joke about me in sign language. I used the little bit of sign language I knew to flip them the bird. My friend and I were in Mexico in a shop. Since we were speaking English in the store, I guess they thought we didn't understand them. They were commenting on my friend's eyebrows since they're pretty thick, but nice. They were asking each other if her eyebrows were natural or if she drew them in that way. One lady commented that they had to be drawn in, look at them. To which my friend responded in Spanish that they were actually natural. The ladies' faces were pretty surprised and they were pretty quiet for the rest of our time there. I speak some Arabic, English being my primary language. I was delivering an $80 order of pizza to a mosque where I was greeted by a rude boy. He's casually cursing me out for being, literally, 2 minutes late, all the while I'm just pretending to not notice. When I handed him the receipt for signature tip, he just signs it and then says in Arabic, "Stupid sucker," expecting a tip. It was at that point I'll look him dead in the eye and say in pristine Arabic, "Watch your filthy tongue, we're in a mosque. Allah have mercy on you." He still didn't tip, but was visibly upset, so I got a good time out of it. Okay, so I speak English and Maltese. Now, Maltese is a Semitic language and we share a lot of our vocabulary with Arabic and Italian. A few months, my friend and I were casually in a highly popular tourist area, and we overhear 3 Arab guys have a conversation. We only caught the end of it though, where one said Habibi Kabali El Bajt. Now, I'm not sure what this means in Arabic, but in Maltese it would translate to friend. Grow my balls. My friend and I just looked at each other and bursted out laughing. I heard some Swedes on a bus in Canada debating whether or not I might be Swedish after eyeing me suspiciously. I am not Swedish, but I sure do understand it. I speak 3 languages. One of the languages is German. Probably the most entertaining thing I've heard are from German tourists who are in awe of Chicago architecture. It's amazing what they notice, in contrast with what some other tourists from other countries notice. Big white guy, fluent in Spanish, was walking to the grocery store with my wife and the 2 little Mexican guys behind us were commenting on how nice my wife's butt is. I turned around and said, "What about my butt?" in Spanish. They immediately apologized and looked worried, but I just laughed and then so did they. I'm white as can be, pale AF, blonde hair, blue eyes, the whole 9 yards, and I speak decent Chinese. No one ever expects that, and certainly not my university's thousands of Chinese exchange students. I was in the student union, late, so pretty empty, studying when I hear 2 Chinese guys looking my way and saying, "Go talk to her." No, you do it. She's white. She probably doesn't date Chinese guys. Do you think she's stuck up, etc. I make eye contact with one of them and say, in Chinese, "Gimme your number." They flipped crap. Chinese people love it when anyone speaks their language, though they did seem a little embarrassed as well. Worked out for the best. I'm going on my 3rd date with one of them this Friday. My grandparents both worked at a hospital when they met each other. They were both sitting in the cafe eating lunch with their friends when my grandfather started speaking in French to his friend, not knowing my grandmother was fluent. He talked about how pretty she was and how much he wanted to ask her out on a date. After a couple of days of pretending she didn't understand French, she went up to him and asked him in French if he wanted to see a movie with her. My grandpa told me he just smiled and instantly fell in love with her. I was in Colombia a few months ago in a small food shop with only 2 tables and noticed that there were 2 girls in there talking about whether they liked McDonald's or Burger King better. I'm pretty fluent in Spanish, but not completely, so I try to listen to conversations to practice. I thought it was amusing, so I turned to my wife and told her in English what I thought they were talking about. Sure enough, one of the girls turned around, smiled and said, "Yes, that's what we are talking about." Fortunately, I recovered pretty quickly and responded by asking them what their answer was, and we struck up a short conversation with them before they left. I was a little embarrassed even though I didn't really say anything embarrassing. The thing is, as soon as I turned to my wife to tell her what I thought they were talking about, I thought to myself, "Watch, they are going to understand English and know that you're talking about them." My grandmother and aunt flew to Vancouver to visit my family from Taiwan. The custom official was asking them the standard questions when my grandmother tell my aunt, in Taiwanese, not Chinese, "Hurry up and say whatever. All he wants is our money." The white custom official turns to my grandmother and spoke in perfect Taiwanese, "Grandma, we don't want your money, but we need to make sure you answer honestly." She told me she almost peed her pants. Sitting in a cafe in Wales speaking Welsh to my husband, a woman on another table who from her accent was Southern English says loudly, "Bloody foreigners should speak our language in our country." I slowly turned around and informed her she was correct and perhaps she would like some Welsh lessons while she was in Wales so she could make more of an effort to speak our language. No reply. I wouldn't say that I speak Japanese as a second language, but I know enough to have overheard a couple tourists call me cute once. I blushed and said thank you in Japanese. That embarrassed them much worse. Me and a friend who are both American but speak German, and both in our early 20s were on an S-Bahn train that was pretty full, aka a Munich commuter train. Anyway, me and my friend are just speaking in English because it's the mother tongue when my friend just switches to German. I just keep on going in English because it doesn't make a difference to me. Well, right behind me was a group of about 10 high school age girls who had been talking about us pretty openly for at least 5 minutes. He said that when he switched to German their eyes got real big and they all just shut up the rest of the ride knowing that at least my friend had heard everything that they had said. I was a South African working in London in 2000. I had just finished a 10-hour shift in a filthy factory and was on the underground going home. I had headphones on but something told me the women sitting across from me were talking about me so I turned the volume down. They were talking about how disgraceful it was that a young woman was wearing heavy boots, Doc Martens FTW, and was so dirty at this time of the day. At my stop I took my headphones off and told them I was sorry not to live up to their standards, but that I had just finished a 10-hour shift. I still wonder what they said afterwards. In high school US, I was on newspaper staff with a guy named Royce, who was second generation German American. His grandfather had emigrated shortly after World War II and was in no way ashamed of being German or having been part of the Wehrmacht. In Grandpa's house, you spoke German and you spoke it right, or you didn't speak at all. So Royce grew up speaking English and German perfectly and interchangeably. Also on staff was a particularly attractive friend of mine named Lenore. Anyway, we spent a weekend at a nearby college doing newspapery stuff, and at one point the three of us were walking across the campus to meet up with the rest of staff. Meanwhile, two college students are walking behind us laughing and cutting up in German. I was unaware that Royce spoke German, and even though I was deep in a wearaboo phase I only knew a few words, so I mostly ignored them. Turns out they were describing in great detail all the things they wanted to do to Lenore, up to and including kidnapping her and keeping her in a closet somewhere. At that point, Royce freaking lost his crap. In German, he turned around and delivered an absolutely blistering dressing down in the most formal, perfect German imaginable. It was like Mike Tyson beating someone with umlauts. It was like that video where Hitler smelled a fart. It was like Mercedes-Benz and BMW tag teaming Audi with color commentary by Volkswagen. It was epic. I never knew what he said. I only know that these two other students, basically grown men, turned tail and fled in the face of a high schooler half their size. My friends and I were in Germany staying in host families' houses. We all agreed to meet up at the town square. We'd been waiting for this one guy for close to 20 minutes now when he shows up followed by the most German looking woman I've ever seen. She was one German dress away from being the poster girl from Oktoberfest. That's when the clown in our group decided to mess with him and asked, in Portuguese, "Did you bang her yet?" She replied with, "I think you should be more respectful," in fluent Portuguese. Everything was so quiet that you could hear it fly far from a mile away. Turns out the girl was also Brazilian, but she had German ancestry and had been living in Germany for a couple of years now. She could speak fluent Portuguese. It was 7 years ago and we still laugh about it. Was at a hospital. Heard family discussing about how hurt someone should act. No idea why. You have been visited by the Bapis doggo of good old times. Comment drink well doggo to get infinite Bapis. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.